This episode is brought to you by Paddle. As a startup, you face unique challenges to stay competitive. You and your team need to stay focused on your product, not your payments. You need to do more, MOR, and DIY less. With Paddle. Paddle is your merchant of record, becoming the seller of record for your SaaS transactions, enabling your team to focus on what's important, your product. Paddle handles all payment management across multiple gateways and methods, taking ownership of tax liability while remaining compliant with regulations across all markets. The platform handles all aspects of SaaS billing models, upgrades, add-on, trials, and more. Let's look at the results. MOR revenue optimization is built into Paddle and accounts for up to 16% higher conversion rates, reduced payment failures, localized pricing, and churn prevention, recovering 40% of cancellations. Their developer-friendly tools are API first with comprehensive documentation, removing the burden from your engineers. With Paddle as your merchant of record, you'll generate more revenue, find and keep more customers, grow faster, and stay compliant everywhere. So what are you waiting for? Get more revenue with less hassle at paddle.com. Okay, guys, I got a serious update for you. You heard me talk about SEMA and the product roadmap radar. I just caught up with Matt, who's the founder there, and he gave me the latest on what they are building. And my mind is blown. The team at SEMA are taking things to the next level. Built around the core of the product roadmap radar, i.e. code and Jira analysis, they are building agent orchestration across the product lifecycle. Picture this. You hook up this system same as before, i.e. integrate your repository and your backlog, Jira today. From that point, SEMA's agent analyzes the codebase and makes suggestions as to what needs to be done next and what could improve, optimize the product. Then, if those tasks are routine, the agent assigns the task to a coding agent, think something like Devin, to complete the minutia, while assigning the human-in-the-loop task to engineers themselves. What you end up with is engineers focusing on building core competency features, while AI handles all the rest. If you're not salivating right now, I don't think you fully understand what this means. But here's what I would suggest. Right now, their product is in a closed beta, and SEMA is looking for folks to sign up for their Product Intelligence Advisory Board. This gives you the opportunity to use the product, give feedback, help shape the future of what's built. Oh, and not to mention additional free usage of the product, potentially through the end of 2026. So, if that fits your workflow and toolset, you need to reach out today. Go to codestory.co/nextlevel, NEXTLEVEL, and reach out to Matt at SEMA to learn more and join the Product Intelligence Advisory Board. Again, that's codestory.co/nextlevel. This episode is brought to you by Paddle. Don't settle for less when you can have more MOR with Paddle, your merchant of record. Eliminate the headaches of payments, grow your revenue everywhere, and focus on what you do best, building your product. Get more revenue with less hassle at paddle.com. Okay, guys, I got a serious update for you. You heard me talk about SEMA and the product roadmap radar. I just caught up with Matt, who's the founder there, and he gave me the latest on what they are building. And my mind is blown. The team at SEMA are taking things to the next level. Built around the core of the product roadmap radar, i.e. code and Jira analysis, they are building agent orchestration across the product lifecycle. Picture this. You hook up this system same as before, i.e. integrate your repository and your backlog, Jira today. From that point, SEMA's agent analyzes the codebase and makes suggestions as to what needs to be done next and what could improve, optimize the product. Then, if those tasks are routine, the agent assigns the task to a coding agent, think something like Devin, to complete the minutia, while assigning the human-in-the-loop task to engineers themselves. What you end up with is engineers focusing on building core competency features, while AI handles all the rest. If you're not salivating right now, I don't think you fully understand what this means. But here's what I would suggest. Right now, their product is in a closed beta, and SEMA is looking for folks to sign up for their Product Intelligence Advisory Board. This gives you the opportunity to use the product, give feedback, help shape the future of what's built. Oh, and not to mention additional free usage of the product, potentially through the end of 2026. So, if that fits your workflow and toolset, you need to reach out today. Go to codestory.co/nextlevel, NEXTLEVEL, and reach out to Matt at SEMA to learn more and join the Product Intelligence Advisory Board. Again, that's codestory.co/nextlevel. This episode is sponsored by Postman. Postman is the world's leading API platform, trusted by 98% of the Fortune 500 and over 40 million developers. Tap into APIs from 18,000 plus companies to power agents that make smarter decisions. Learn more at postman.com/podcast/codestory. This message is sponsored by Melee Search. Today, search isn't just a feature, it's a cornerstone. And Melee Search gives your users the experience they need with lightning-fast performance, full-text search, AI usage, and multimodal capabilities. Melee Search delivers relevant results in less than the blink of an eye. Use the promo code CODESTORY at checkout to get 2 months free at meleesearch.com. That's MEILI search.com. This episode is brought to you by Paddle. As a startup, you face unique challenges to stay competitive. You and your team need to stay focused on your product, not your payments. You need to do more, MOR, and DIY less. With Paddle. Paddle is your merchant of record, becoming the seller of record for your SaaS transactions, enabling your team to focus on what's important, your product. Paddle handles all payment management across multiple gateways and methods, taking ownership of tax liability while remaining compliant with regulations across all markets. The platform handles all aspects of SaaS billing, billing models, upgrades, add-on, trials, and more. Let's look at the results. MOR revenue optimization is built into Paddle and accounts for up to 16% higher conversion rates, reduced payment failures, localized pricing, and churn prevention, recovering 40% of cancellations. Their developer-friendly tools are API first with comprehensive documentation, removing the burden from your engineers. With Paddle as your merchant of record, you'll generate more revenue, find and keep more customers, grow faster, and stay compliant everywhere. So what are you waiting for? Get more revenue with less hassle at paddle.com. This episode is brought to you by PropelOff. People take authentication for granted, but it's more than how customers log into your product. It's how you manage your relationship with your users. The easiest way to make authentication your advantage is to use PropelOff. PropelOff is more than just functional. It's powerful. With tools like Managed UIs, Enterprise SSO, robust user management features, and actionable insights, PropelOff adapts as your product grows. And the best part? When off is effortless, your team can focus on scaling, not troubleshooting. That means more releases, happier customers, and more growth for your business. Save dev time, win over your customers, and propel your business forward with PropelOff. Check them out at propeloff.com. That's PROPELAUTH.com.
And we had tremendous headaches with the performance of the Microsoft C# frameworks that we were using back in the day. We didn't build it to be very scalable, but we had tremendous headaches trying to make the plumbing scale properly. And things that would just bewilder us. We would spend months trying to understand why a certain pipeline was slow, and we couldn't figure it out. In the second generation, when we changed to Java and JavaScript, we paid extra attention to making sure that we wrote as much of the plumbing software and architecture was built by us by ourselves without using any off-the-shelf components. So we owned it. Hi, my name is Avi Perez. I am the CTO and co-founder for Pyramid Analytics.
This is Code Story, a podcast bringing you interviews with tech visionaries.
Spent 6 months moonlighting.
There's nothing on the back end.
Who share what it takes to change an industry.
I don't exactly know what to do next.
Took many goes to get right.
Who built the teams that have their back.
The company is its people.
The teams help each other achieve more. I was proud of our team.
Keeping scalability top of mind.
All that infrastructure was
Yes, we've been fighting it as we grow.
Total waste of time. The stories you don't read in the headlines.
It's not an easy thing to achieve, mind
Took
you.
it off the shelf and dusted it off and tried it again.
To ride the ups and downs of the startup life.
You need to really want it. Not just about technology.
All this and more on Code Story.
I'm your host, Noah Labhart, and today how Avi Perez has built a way for you to experience intelligent analytics at the speed of your business. Avi Perez has been in the data and analytics space for more than 25 years. He began his career in banking and finance in Australia, but quickly grew tired of crunching numbers for the bigwigs, wanting to find a better way to calculate this information. Outside of tech, he enjoys a wide array of music, from classical to modern trance. He's a big science fiction nut, enjoying shows like Aliens and The Matrix, and cooks up some exquisite cuisine on occasion. Within his prior startup, Avi and his co-founders built out a way to make intelligent decisions for their business using data. After they exited that business, they wanted to continue their data stint, but in particular, commercialize the analytics solution they created. This is the creation story of Pyramid Analytics.
Pyramid Analytics is a company, in very official broad terminologies, designed around the idea of delivering a master platform solution for taking business data and turning it into business decisions, which sounds very lofty. But if you think about the mechanics of taking data from everywhere, potentially fixing and cleaning it, potentially enriching it maybe with machine learning and data modeling, running it through semantics, you might then hand it off to end users who might visualize it, but ultimately we don't really care about the visualization of that. We want to know that it's going to drive something very clever downstream that might allow somebody to make a good business decision. So it's not always about the visual, and it's more about the cleverness of what you can do with data at the end of the day. So without being uber specific, the idea is to go from raw data to the entire data factory process and getting it out the other end to let a very smart business user make a very smart decision with it. In the business, a lot of tools exist out there for visualizing data in very interesting ways, but it tends to be very simplistic. So Pyramid's entire sort of design concept, apart from this data factory principle, is to make the sophisticated simple, which means can we do really clever, sophisticated activities, do it very simply, which of course is a relative term, right, depending on what you're trying to do, and then put that kind of horsepower into the hands of non-technical users so they can achieve some very clever things with it. In Pyramid, that is our sweet spot. That's what our customers come to us for. And in that pipeline of that data factory platform, we include a whole bunch of different modules and capabilities. Chief amongst them, since it's tip of the spear at the moment and the world is AI, Pyramid is particularly strong in all things AI and natural language processing, both the querying and the generation business. We have fantastic modules where you can literally talk to the computer and ask it to do things, and it'll produce results for you, which is not an insignificant job on your private corporate data. Everyone's impressed by something like ChatGPT, for example. But that's asking questions from the public domain, publicly available information. It's a whole nother ballgame when you start querying your own private, offline, top secret corporate data. It's a very difficult task to achieve. So that's a big part of the story too. Pyramid is born out of the frustration of delivering high-end enterprise analytics that can actually solve real business problems en masse, on scale, to tens of thousands of users on just about any corporate data set. Cleverly, but quickly, but also in a non-technical fashion. So you don't need to be an IT genius or a developer with a degree in C+ programming to get something clever out of it. It should be able to work just point and click.
So let's dive into the MVP. And this will be interesting to hear where you start on the MVP. I'm curious about that first version of the product you built. How long did it take to build, and what sort of tools were you using to bring it to life?
We're on to the second generation of the product. The first generation of the product we actually built in .NET with Silverlight. And we struggled whether to go with Silverlight or not. That's how far back the first generation goes. And the reason we chose Silverlight is because back in the day, for those people who still remember, you had a choice between Flash and HTML4 and this new thing called Silverlight from Microsoft. And when we looked at Flash and HTML4, we realized that as web-based front-end or client-side delivery mechanisms, they were wholly useless. They were too weak, too difficult to program, couldn't handle the load, were very slow. We would have major problems. And we didn't want to deal with, again, for those people who remember, things like ActiveX or Java Apps. All of that stuff was like madness. It was just before HTML5 was even released. So Silverlight looked like a fantastic option. And by the way, it was a phenomenal programming experience. You could write your C# code for the server, and it would, the same classes and logic would effectively work in the client. So your serialization, deserialization headaches were just unbelievably simple. Brilliant concept. But just as Silverlight started taking off, good old Apple released the whole iPhone and the iOS experience. They pretty much put the kibosh on plugins like Silverlight, and that killed it for not just for Microsoft, killed for everybody. And so we pivoted in the second generation of the product and got into JavaScript. Now that HTML5 had come on the scene, and we saw that, wow, we can get incredible capabilities and performance out of different frameworks in JavaScript. And we started with Angular. And I think after 6 months, we changed to React. We realized that the Angular stuff wasn't baked enough, and React was very, very good. In doing so, we also changed the backend from C# to Java. So the second generation of the product is like a complete redo, if you will, because one of the headaches with C# at the time, and I still think to this day, is connecting to all the weird and wonderful data technologies is much simpler with Java than it is with C#. And that's how we get to the second generation of Pyramid, which is a React JavaScript frontend, developed with the TypeScript, and the backend built in Java using, I would like to call it mini services design. Much micro, I would call them more mini services design, which can be run both containerized and uncontainerized.
So you got your MVP, you've gone through the iterations of the MVP, and you changed out kind of the tooling there that you're using to build it. How did you progress and mature the product from that point? I think to wrap that in a box a little bit, what I'm looking for is how you built your roadmap, how you went about deciding that, okay, this is the next most important thing to build or to address with Pyramid.
First of all, it didn't hurt that I personally, but the other people around me have all got a deep background in the space that we're in. So we understood what functionality we needed to get. And I don't mean light stuff, very deep and detailed. Analytics and querying a database through a point-and-click interface is a very sophisticated operation. So we understood the grand plan, and if I showed you the roadmap that we drew up when we first started the company, you'd be shocked to see how identical it is to what we've achieved today, more than a decade later, and how we've gone about chasing down every one of those original ideas. It's pretty much what we've done. Obviously, at the grain and down to specific functions and UI, it's subtly different to what we ever expected. But the grand idea has been well understood for a long time. There's no surprises. And that's just basically coming to the table with deep knowledge of the space and experience, having built almost 3 companies in the space already. We knew what we had to do and where the problems were. So that didn't hurt. Having said that, we built the roadmap around the idea of let's add the core foundational elements, both front end and back end, that would allow us to build a minimum viable product that we can take to market as quickly as possible. And then with time, we bolt on new capabilities, new modules that we could add on. It wasn't a blocker to making the first round of sales. So as a startup, the ultimate headache is not spending 10 years in development, living on fresh air and in investor dollars. The trick is to obviously start earning revenue, and the punishment is that if you do that, then you might build a sort of an inadequate day one product and you get killed, which is obvious. I'm sure that you and your listeners are aware of that. But the game plan was to put the minimum requirements in, and that is based on just our vast experience in the space. We knew what we had to do to win the customers over. As things grew, the order of the roadmap and the minutiae of which functions to add in and not add in was heavily driven by customer demand, as much as it was driven by competitive forces, as much as it was driven by the analyst community, the Gartners of this world, who say, we think that pink buttons of the blue document are all the rage. Where's your pink button of the blue document? Oh, okay, we'll go and build one. And then we also have the grand roadmap design that I mentioned at the beginning that we knew we had to do, which it turns out is pretty much what we expected it to be. It hasn't changed almost at all. Shockingly, it's pretty much the same thing we've had for a while.
I hear you saying Avi. How did you build your team? What did you look for in those people to indicate that they're the winning horses to join you?
First of all, obviously I come from the technical side in terms of understanding how to write the code. So one hat I wear is the engineering hat, but I also come from the product side. I know what the product should do. That comes from my old background in the analytical space in multiple different industries. That doesn't mean I know everything, but it means that I come with a very good ground of knowledge on what the users are looking for. So I wear the product hat too. And by virtue of those 2 things, I also have the implementation hat, because in the prior company, I knew what it was like to implement software. So from that side of the fence, the product specification, the product design, the functionality, and how it needs to be implemented on my side is covered. What I needed help with was finding people who knew go-to-market side of the fence at the executive level, and that's where I found my co-founders. The co-founders of the pyramid, the other two co-founders come from that side of the fence, and that's how we've actually split the functionality of the company between the technical and implementation versus the go-to-market, the selling of the market. And by the way, there's a lot of crossover between them, right? Marketing tells you we need these features to win these customers over, and vice versa. I'll say, hey, we've built these capabilities, then go find me customers that are interested in this kind of stuff. It's symbiotic. I think what's a little different that I've seen, and I'm not saying we're unique in this way, but what I've seen for us is compared to some of our competitors where the product management, product design crew are quite independent from engineering, I think that's where a lot of friction exists, not just personality friction, but in execution friction. And because it's centered in the same group of people at Pyramid, we are able to move a little bit more intelligently, a lot faster, and a lot quicker. And that also then to one of your questions is how do we find the right people? Apart from the co-founders and the executives, I was able to find developers who are able to work with that kind of a framework. So we're able to deliver incredible functionality with a very small team limited to the alternatives or relative to our competitors. I can only talk to our direct competitors as a benchmark, right? Because everybody's technical problem is different to the next situation. But it's a fraction of the size, and I'm normally interested in people who are very good thinkers. I actually don't care so much about their programming skills. Programming I can teach you, but thinking I can't. So we used to have this thing where we would test people not on how they coded, but on how they solved logical problems. And if they were particularly good at solving logical problems, that was a big win. Obviously, if they were good programmers too, that's great. No one's going to complain with that. But we were more interested in that. And of that, more specifically, special thinkers. So special thinking individuals who can solve complex problems in their head tend to be phenomenal programmers. And that leads to very efficient, fast, high quality, bug-free code. And that's a rule of thumb that I would share with anybody. A very good way to fight.
This episode is brought to you by PropelOff. People take authentication for granted, but it's more than how customers log into your product. It's how you manage your relationship with your users. The easiest way to make authentication your advantage is to use PropelOff. PropelOff is more than just functional. It's powerful. With tools like Managed UIs, Enterprise SSO, robust user management features, and actionable insights, PropelOff adapts as your product grows. And the best part? When Auth is effortless, your team can focus on scaling, not troubleshooting. That means more releases, happier customers, and more growth for your business. Save dev time, win over your customers, and propel your business forward with PropelOff. Check them out at propeloff.com. That's PROPELAUTH.com. This episode is sponsored by MailySearch. In today's digital landscape, search isn't just a feature, it's a cornerstone. And you need a user experience that drives customer satisfaction. You need MailySearch. MailySearch has lightning-fast performance, returning answers in less than 50 milliseconds. Yeah, you heard that right. Faster than the blink of an eye. The open-source AI search engine is plug-and-play, so you can get up and running in minutes with smart presets, allowing you to start searching through your data with zero configuration. MailySearch utilizes advanced full-text search and AI, ensuring your results are ultra-relevant with semantic depth. It's multimodal, supporting images, videos, and audio, along with being federated, i.e. searching across multiple data sources. And it's developer-friendly. Whether you're building a content-rich website or enterprise application, MailySearch delivers the experience your users expect and deserve. For a limited time, CodeStory users can get 2 months free. Use the promo code CODESTORY, all one word, at checkout. Just go to MailySearch.com and get started today. That's MEILI search.com. You're building this, and I assume this is built for, obviously processing a lot of data, probably targeted at the enterprise. I'm curious about scale and how you approach this. I'm sure it was approached in the beginning with scale in mind, especially given your experience. But I'm curious if there have been interesting areas where you've had to fight it as you've grown.
In the first generation, like I said, we wrote it in .NET backend, and then C# and Silverlight frontend. And we had tremendous headaches with the performance of the Microsoft C# frameworks that we were using back in the day. Tremendous performance needs. We did build it to be very scalable, multi-node, clusterable, multi-machine capable, even in the original generation, the first generation. But we had tremendous headaches trying to make the plumbing scale properly. And things that would just bewilder us. We would spend months trying to understand why a certain pipeline was slow, and we couldn't figure it out. In the second generation, when we changed to Java and JavaScript, we paid extra attention to making sure that we wrote as much of the plumbing software and architecture was built by us by ourselves without using any off-the-shelf components. So we owned it. It took us a bit longer, but because we owned it, we knew where all the bodies were buried. And by extension, then we could optimize it. So we have built our own networking protocols. Sounds crazy. We've built our own compression frameworks. We've built our own mechanics for drawing visualizations in a browser. Strange things that you just don't hear about. We built them all ourselves so that we own the entire stack, so we're not reliant on anybody else, including the mega vendors of software and frameworks, to solve it for us. And that was one way to fix scaling, is to make sure that we own the core architecture was ours. We also built it, the design of the platform was designed inherently to be highly scalable. Pyramid today, you can install it on 1 to N machines in a virtual machine design, where we call the native install, either Windows or Linux. And we also built it to be containerized. So all the services can run in their own containers, and we specifically chose the Kubernetes track as our sort of our trellis to run the containerization in. And Pyramid today can scale ad infinitum to as big as you want. I've got one customer that runs on something like 150 nodes and like 100,000 users in a single instance on something like a 640 core hardware footprint, which is not too shabby for a single instance, for a single customer, for a single app in one location. But we're not running everything here. And we're not a hyperscaler ourselves, right? We're not Microsoft or AWS. So that's a very interesting storyline. We obviously made sure the client side is very scalable, being JavaScript centric, fine. But I'll give you an example just to give you a smidgen here. Like, we knew that creating, for example, a sessionless client experience builds a very scalable web architecture. It doesn't require sticky sessions on load balancing. I'm getting into the weeds there. But we made sure the product doesn't require that. It sounds like a detail, but it's not dead simple to scale out Pyramid from the front end perspective. On the web side of things, it scales flawlessly. I can keep going, just give me more equipment. We have no issue with, oh my goodness, we can manage the sessions and the cookies and all that. None of it applies to us. We knew how to design from the get-go, not one of those issues. If I had to find one thing that I'm disappointed in, it's Java itself. Java's memory management is atrocious. I think in the current era of things like Rust, Go, even the latest C#, the .NET Core, its memory is terrible. And I know that they've been trying to do some kind of work to fix it, but I think it's a foundational problem that will never go away. And the only reason to stick with Java for us, or maybe if it's relevant to anyone else or any other listener, is that it's ubiquity and its ability to connect to all the data sources that we need to connect to and other third-party technologies, of which there are hundreds of them. Makes it a very strong choice. But one of my regrets, or not one of my regrets, I don't regret choosing Java, but one of my irritations is the amount of effort we have to go to manage the memories. It's incredible. I'm super annoyed compared to other technologies. It's a shocker. JavaScript, though, fantastic. It's delivered in diamonds. I think, thank goodness for the HTML5 browser ecosystem. We do, personally, I think, amazing things with it. And what can be done with it is incredible. That's it in a nutshell.
So, Avi, as you step out on the balcony, you look across all that you've built, with Pyramid in particular, what are you most proud of?
So I'm proud of the fact that we've built something super rich, super powerful, super intelligent, and we've done it with a team that is probably a tenth of the size of our nearest competitor. You take a very small, smart group of people who are highly empowered, and you can achieve amazing things. You don't need a really big team, and you don't need to have crazy amounts of investment to get something super clever and super powerful out of it. So it's the first thing I'm proud of. Second thing I'm proud of is that the product does what it says it does. There are very few things in it like, oh goodness, like we know this is not true or not, that's not true. It really does what we say it does. when it's taken out by customers in a road test, which you always worry, it's the ultimate pageant. Like in the beauty contest, are we the most beautiful product on the stage? It's the ultimate question. And we have an incredibly high technical win rate. I think it's 8 out of 10 times in any beauty contest, we'll win it. That's a tremendous achievement and a tremendous reflection of what we've done. There'll be other reasons why we lose. It could be things like pricing, dare I mention it, political decision. As a small company, we had to compete with the biggest companies in the world, not just in our space, from Microsoft to Google to Amazon to SAP to Oracle. It's like the who's who of tech are our primary competitors. It's not what you would ordinarily love to compete against. But we're able to beat them. It's a shocker. We're able to functionally beat them. What we can't beat them on is marketing and sales. What they sneeze in an afternoon is an annual budget for us. And that's where the challenge lies. It's a good challenge, right? Obviously prefer we didn't have it, but it's definitely a challenge. But we don't normally suffer on the technical product side. We suffer on the get your name out there side, which is unfortunate, but that's how it goes. So that's what I'm most proud of, that we've built a phenomenal product. We've done it with a phenomenal team. We did it with far fewer resources. And again, in the analyst community, we're well recognized for it. And all of those things are definitely things to be very proud of, that we've been able to solve all of that on a shoestring budget compared to the alternative.
Avi, let's flip the script a little bit. Tell me about a mistake you made and how you and your team responded to it.
I think the biggest kinds of mistakes we have made, if I could think of a generalization thing, is putting in functionality that ultimately breaks the way the product used to work and breaking it for all customers who are expecting it to work the old way. This is, if I could generalize, one of the things that we have learned the most from is how to deal with this problem. And breaking it wasn't necessarily intentional. It might have been because we wanted to upgrade. It might have been because we're actually fixing an underlying bug, that we've undone something the way it works, and unbeknownst to us, that actually customers are relying on that broken feature for it to work like that. It sounds silly, but one of the best pieces of advice I give to my team, and I would give to anybody else, is even if you fix something because it should legitimately be fixed, one of the smartest things you can do is to put a switch into the product, whether it's a UI switch, it's a user choice, or a backend switch, that allows the customer to keep the old way things work without actually deprecating it for the new way. And that's the smartest thing that we've taken under our wing. We never, that's a big statement, we go to the nth degree to make sure that we don't deprecate existing functionality, regardless of what we think it is. We always find a way to make the change additive rather than destructive. And this is sort of the biggest sets of mistakes in the past was taking the destructive mode and then living with problems galore because customers don't want to upgrade, customers don't like the new functionality, customers' old content or old experiences don't match up with what the new stuff looks like. This is probably an old mistake that we don't do anymore. So that's one suggestion. Another one as well that I would throw into that is things like UI. To be very careful about changing UI too much. The retraining and the readoption of your non-technical end users can be an insurmountable headache. You can kill your deployment of a new version and in fact have a churning customer if you make your product a dramatic change. The benefits seldom outweigh the cost. So those are two ideas that I would share with people to take to heart. You should avoid them like the plague.
Okay, Avi, let's move forward. What does the future look like for Pyramid Analytics, for the product, for what you're building, what you offer, and for your team?
Easily at the heart of that is AI. It's definitely the tip of the spear. It's the tip of the spear for our employees. It's the tip of the spear for our investors. Everybody plunged in it. We've heavily invested in AI over the years with tremendous AI capabilities, but whatever we have, it's by definition not enough. And whatever we have is old. In 6 months' time, the next best thing is arrived. So whatever it is we're doing, AI is front and center. And if you ask me to summarize what does the roadmap look like, the roadmap is doing the next big thing that relates in our industry in relation to AI. That is an ongoing challenge. Not just the AI ideas, but AI, productionized AI. So highly performant, highly scalable, fully securable. In other words, realistic implementations of it. And we see a lot of AI gadgetry, which is very distant from real world productionized versions of things that can actually be deployed to real users. And And our goal is to make it all very real and very tangible. But at the heart of the whole concept is AI. I'd like to say, in summary, in very specifically to our industry, people dream of the self-driving car. Imagine I got into the car and I said, drive me, I'm in New York, and I said, listen, drive me to Boston. And I give it a specific address. And not only does the car know how to get there, but it knows how to get there without me lifting a finger, optimizes it, drives safely, I get there in one piece. Everything is flawlessly taken care of. People want that idea, but for business. Today's AI in analytics and business is, okay, draw me a visualization of my sales by customer. Okay, great. So it might build me a nice looking chart that shows me my customers and it shows me the sales figures. Correct. But I don't care actually for that. I really want to know, what will my customers buy from me tomorrow? The predictive side of things, that's way more interesting. And I don't want a chart. I just want a list of the 5 things I need to know about. Okay, I need to make 4 more chairs in the red variety and 3 more tables in the green variety. Good to know. And that would be an achievement. And it's getting quite close to achievable. But the ultimate goal, and this is really me using AI to the greatest extent, is to be the self-driving car meets the self-driving business decision, which is me talking to the computer. What do I need to do tomorrow to make another $10 million in profit? And by the way, go and do it. That's a self-driving car meets a self-driving business decision. Not only how do I make more money, but also go and do it for me. And that's what I think people are looking for. They're looking for data to drive that. And it sounds fictitious, but if you look at the sort of the crumbs on the ground, it's basically where people are moving towards. And whoever nails that one or nails that entire concept is sitting on something unbelievable. And that's basically what we're trying to do in Pyramid. That's the lofty goal. The self-automated business decision where you're sitting on the beach, you don't even have to think about what it is. You don't have to look at a pie chart. You don't care for the analysis. You just want the outcome. And you tell the computer or your AI bot, or whatever it is you want to call it, you go figure it out and you go and do it. And just deposit the profit in my bank account. Thank you very much.
Let's switch to you, Avi. Who influences the way that you work? Name a person or many persons or something you look up to and why.
There's lots of people. To think of one specific person is a bit of a challenge. Look, I'll say this. I'm very impressed with all the famous entrepreneurs that we all know. I don't want to get into the naming business, but there are a lot of very successful entrepreneurs out there who are very good at homogenizing business ideas, business trends, technology, and have the wherewithal, dare I use the word, the chutzpah, to go ahead and just commit and do it. I'm very impressed and in great admiration of those people and those personalities. And I admire them. I don't know them personally, but I admire them for fun. I'm very impressed with that. In terms of practical on the ground stuff, we learn everything from lots of people. I learn things from my own team, how people work, how they react to people, how they treat people, but not just from a professional sense, also on a personal level. I learn things from everybody. I always tell people that the greatest skill an entrepreneur has is the ability to sit back and realize that they need to learn the next big idea from someone else around them. It doesn't have to be big ideas, even small ideas. You should always be learning things. But in the macro sense, I'm very impressed with all those people who've got grandiose ideas and know how to execute them and have the goal to chase that kind of thing. And once you've created your own company, you really do appreciate how unbelievably difficult it is to be successful at it. It's not easy. There are a lot of things working against you, and I'm always impressed by that. So that's not being very specific, but it's giving you a rough idea or a rough sketch of the kind of people that I look at, follow, and admire.
Okay, Avi, last question. So you're getting on a plane, and you're sitting next to a young entrepreneur who's built the next big thing. They're jazzed about it. They can't wait to show it off to the world, and can't wait to show it off to you right there on the plane. What advice do you give that person, having gone down this road a bit?
First thing I would do is, if it's an unbelievably brilliant idea, you need to do a very thorough check to make sure that someone else hasn't come up with it. I always find that young entrepreneurs who are not used to broadly scanning the world might come up with unbelievable ideas, but are very naive about how many other people have thought about it. It's the first thing to go and do a check, to actually believe that maybe you're not the first person to do it. The second comment, which almost contradicts the first one, is just because someone else came up with it doesn't mean you shouldn't use your idea, and you shouldn't pursue it, because even a great idea can fail because the execution failed. In other words, A ideas with B people actually produce normally failures. It's normally B ideas with A people that succeed. So first things first, check your idea hasn't been done before, because you might be just wasting gobs of time on something that is already in front of you. You just didn't realize it. Second thing is, just because you find them, figure out if those people are good at execution and where they're up to in the execution process before you decide to pursue it. And don't believe for a second that just because they've started that you too can't do it. The last piece of advice I would give in a very high level is surround yourself with a bunch of other really good people, because it takes a village to be successful. Very seldom can you do it on your own. Go and find really good people, and don't be shy to admit what you're good at or what you like doing versus what you're not good at or what you don't like doing, which, by the way, those two things tend to go hand in hand. So if you're very salesy and marketing centric, go and find yourself if you'd say it's a technology story, go and find yourself a great technician. Go and find yourself a great product person, or vice versa. There's nothing wrong with bringing other people on board, finding other partners to do it. They can shoulder some of the stress, some of the risk, some of the tremendous complexity of being successful. But those are the three things I would say to people. And if you can get to that, you have to be super resilient. Don't give up. It's never that easy. It doesn't matter how easy it looks on paper. It's not that easy at all. And if you're willing to fight your way through it and keep going, you can generally succeed. You know, being ready to pivot, ready to change, ready to go up, ready to go down. But if you want to stick to it, you can succeed. And those are the hallmarks of really successful companies that don't fluke their way through it. Some companies that just fluke their way through it and just amazingly can pull off a magic trick. But the vast majority of companies are not handed lucky outcomes. They're there through blood, sweat, and tears. What's the famous line? Luck is what's left over after careful planning. And maybe you're lucky. If you are, great for you, and great. But the vast majority of entrepreneurs and successful startups and successful companies, it's through blood, sweat, and tears. And you need to be resilient and tenacious. If you do that, you too can succeed.
That's fantastic advice. Well, Avi, thank you for being on the show today, and thank you for telling the creation story of Pyramid Analytics.
Thank you, Noah, and thank you for your time as well.
And this concludes another chapter of Code Story. Code Story is hosted and produced by Noah Labhart. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the podcasting app of your choice. And when you get a chance, leave us a review. Both things help us out tremendously. And thanks again for listening.
No one knows your business better than you. So who better to create your website than, well, you? Wix's website builder puts it all in your hands. Create a beautiful website just by talking with AI, or choosing from thousands of templates. Customize every detail with simple drag-and-drop tools and get everything you need to start running business your way. Build more, think bigger, and do it all yourself on Wix.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. Just go to Indeed.com/PODKATZ13 right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.